Hello everyone, I hope you are having a fantastic day so far, and I am so excited because on the day I'm filming this, it is the first day of spring, and what better day to share some of my spring book recommendations than today. This has actually been a series I've been doing on this channel. I started last year in the summer with my recommendations, so today is the conclusion of that series, and I have it linked in a playlist below, so you can feel free to check those out if you're looking for some seasonal reads throughout the year. Typically, I have done 10 books that I personally really enjoy either reading in the season that I'm talking about, or they just give me that kind of vibe, and the same is true today for spring. But I will be honest, there are a few more than 10 books, and I'll explain why as we go through it, because spring is one of my favorite seasons. A lot of books that I enjoy also are very much a spring kind of essence, and so I'm very excited to get into these and share them with you today. The first book I'm going to share is one of my favorite books of all time, and it is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. I own multiple copies of this book, but I picked this one to show today because it has some really cool features in the book, and I'll put that in here so you can see. There's some different illustrations and interactive elements, and this story is just so quintessentially spring to me, not just because it involves Mary taking care of this garden and finding it and bringing it back to life, but also just the themes in the book of reconnection with oneself and finding purpose, and a lot of things that I think are really just quintessentially spring. So if you have not read The Secret Garden, you definitely should read it this spring. The next recommendation I have is technically two books because they are by the same author, and they both give me very similar vibes, and I couldn't pick just one, and that is Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I have been around these books for pretty much my entire life. I was recently gifted these two particular copies, and I love the stories. I think Jane Austen is a brilliant writer and is so witty. And again, just the entire vibes of both of these books just feels so springy to me. And if you haven't read either of them, again, you definitely should check them out. The next one I have is also something that reconnects me with my childhood, and that is The Secret of the Old Clock by Carolyn Keene. It is a Nancy Drew mystery. Honestly, there's so many Nancy Drew mysteries I feel like are very springy, but this particular one is so good. I remember listening to the audio book of this where Laura Linney was the narrator when I was little. I'd check it out from the library. I also collect different Nancy Drew books because I just love Nancy Drew, and I played the computer games as a kid, so many different things. But this book in particular, quick read, really fun. Nancy is such an interesting character, and if you have not read this particular one or any Nancy Drew book, pick one up, read it. It's really quick, and I think you will definitely enjoy it. The next one I have has been on my bookshelf since I was in middle school, and it is Water Song, a retelling of The Frog Prince by Suzanne Wein. I think that's how you say her name. I hope it is. This was part of a series that was released, I think, through Scholastic, where they did lots of retellings of different fairy tales. I know they did the 12 Dancing Princesses. They did Beauty and the Beast. They did Cinderella. This is the one of The Frog Prince, and I just recently reread this because I am doing a book club with my best friend, and one of our books for one of the months that we've been doing is reading our own copies of these and then trading them out with each other, which is really fun. But just rereading this, it definitely just gives me some spring vibes, and I feel like the cover art too, just the greens and like the water lily pond, just very reminiscent of spring. It's a really interesting story, very unique take on this particular fairy tale, and if you haven't read it, I definitely think you would enjoy it. The next book that I have is one that I've read more recently, and it really connects with just the actuality of spring being a time of rebirth and renewal, and that is The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and its little subtitle is Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World. She also wrote a book called Braiding Sweetgrass that I read last year, as well as this one, and it's a really short book, but there's so much in here just about being connected to nature and seeing the connection of things throughout the world, not just you yourself, but realizing the part that you are in this, and the world is so much bigger than us, and I think it's just beautiful. I also love that the back says all flourishing is mutual. Really important story, really well written. I love the way that Robin Wall Kimmerer writes, and so I definitely think if you have not checked this one out, you should. I know I'm saying that a lot, but this one in particular, really, really good. Next is a nonfiction book that I actually read at the end of 2025, and that is Simply More, a book for anyone who has been told they're too much by Cynthia Erivo. I don't think it's just the colors of the book that make me think it's springtime. The reason that I picked this one is because it talks about Cynthia really coming into herself and accepting who she is and being comfortable with who she is. And spring has so many themes of like rebirth and renewal, and I think in everyone's life, they have a time where they come to terms with who they are and who they want to be, and accepting who they are and not worrying about necessarily if people think they're too much or if people are not going to like them, but just knowing who they are and being comfortable with that. And that was something recently, like in the past couple of years for me, that I have really worked through. And so reading this and hearing her story about it, when it's literally Cynthia Erivo, who just played Elphaba, is like crazy. I loved it. I love the way that Cynthia wrote this book. I think it's beautiful, and it's definitely something I'm going to reread again. So if you've not checked this one out, you definitely should. The next one we have is one of my favorite books. I have a lot of favorite books that are in springtime, and this is How to Be a Wildflower, a Field Guide by Katie Daisy. I had How to Be a Moonflower in one of my previous videos in this series, but this was the first Katie Daisy book I read. I got it for Christmas from my parents, and the illustrations in it are so beautiful. She's such a talented artist, and the way she put this book together is so magical. I'll show you some of the excerpts from it, but you definitely, if you have not gotten a copy of this book, you should get a copy, because it's something that I have reread when I am feeling down, when I'm feeling low, when I just need something to remind me of like the beauty and the simplicity in the world. This is such a great book. I love it so much. And you can get this in a couple different places, but I'm going to link to it in her Etsy shop because I know it directly goes to her. So if you are interested, you can get it from there. The next one I'm going to show may not be something that is a typical book recommendation, but I'm still going to recommend it to you because I love this book. I think it's perfect for spring, and it is Floriography, an illustrated guide to the Victorian language of flowers by Jessica Rue. She has done a few different books. She also has a book called Ornithology, I believe. I'll fix it if I said it wrong. If I did, I'm so sorry. But it's about the symbolism of birds throughout time. And I have been fascinated for years with the language of flowers and the different meanings that they can have. I actually have multiple copies of books that are about the language of flowers. I think I have like 4. But this particular version, the illustrations in it are beautiful. The descriptions are simple, but really well done. And if you've never heard of the Victorian language of flowers, I feel like this is a really good starting place for you to just kind of get to know it. And it also is a really cool connector to the next book that I'm going to talk about, or actually I should say book series that I'm going to talk about, and that is the Saffron Everly Mysteries by Kate Kavari. The whole series to me just feels very much like springtime. I know the first book for sure to me feels like spring, but honestly all of them are just so much fun to read in the spring. And there is a really cool connection to the Victorian language of flowers in the series. I'm not going to spoil it for you because you should read it. Kate Kavari is a brilliant writer. I do not have physical copies of the books. I'm in the process of getting some physical copies, but I have enjoyed every single one that I've read. She has a new one that's coming out soon. I'm so excited to read it. And it's just a really fun mystery series that takes place with Saffron Everly, who is a botanist and wants to help solve some things that are going down in a very unique and fun way. And that's all that I'll say. So I definitely think you should check those out because they're really fun. The audiobooks are so much fun. That's how I first got to listen and read those books. So I definitely think you should check those out too. And now we come to the end of the book recommendations. Finally, I know it technically has been more than 10, but we're not going to worry about it. It's going to be fine. The last book recommendation I have is The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova. I really hope I said her name right. If I messed it up, I'm so sorry. But this book is magical, literally magical. And I'll read to you the little tiny little excerpt on the back, and that should be enough of a hook because it hooked me when I saw it back in the day. The stars have shifted. The earth has turned. The time is here. I am dying. Come and collect your inheritance. And if that's not enough to get you to read this book, I don't know what more I could say. It is brilliantly written. It is so fascinating and entertaining. And there is humor sprinkled throughout it, but it has so much heart to it as well. I absolutely loved this book, and I definitely think you will as well. And that's it. Those are my book recommendations for spring. It is crazy to think that I have now done book recommendations for every single season. When I started doing these back in the summer of 2025, I really didn't know where it would go, and it's been so much fun to make these. I have so many more exciting ideas for some videos that are also going to be coming out very, very soon. If you have any spring book suggestions of your own, please leave them in the comments below. I love getting new book recommendations, and I would love to see what you have to say, or if you have any suggestions for other videos that I could make, you can also leave that down there as well. I hope you have a fantastic day. Happy reading, and I will see you next time.